cartoons or Disney? Well, there is a lot more in this field. To brief us about the same, I will introduce you to the guest for today, Ms. Maitreyi Narsalay and Mahfouz Hussain. To begin with, Ms. Maitreyi Narsalay, she graduated from Amity University in the field of animation and visual graphics, Mumbai. She is already a co-founder and director at Motion Time. She has been actively organizing animation fests for her department every year. Her skills lie in management, execution, creative thinking, and leadership. She excels at motion designing and creative thinking. Her vision is to create a world where people think and find ways of expressing themselves creatively. Our next speaker, Mr. Mahfouz. He is a graduate from Amity University in the field of animation and visual graphics. He is the founder and director at Motion Time. While pursuing his graduation, he was recruited to work on a project with Institute for Design of Electrical Measuring Instruments, IDEMI for BARC. After graduation, he helped Vare Energies build their first of its kind virtual augmented profile. His skills lie in client value creation and business development. His vision is to make animation accessible to all. With that brief introduction, and before we begin, a quick instructions to all. We'll take questions at the end. You can put them in chat box. Keep your cameras off for attendees. Keep mic on mute and have a wonderful and insightful session. Over to you, Ms. Maitreyi and Mr. Mahfouz.
Thank you so much, Rohit. Now I'll share my screen. I hope the screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, great. Before we begin, I would just like to tell you that I'm having massive internet issues at my place. So unfortunately, I'm going to switch off my video from here so that I can present without interruptions. So before we start the session, I would love to tell you, all of you, a little bit about Motion Time. So Motion Time is a media agency, a marketing firm, as well as an animation studio. We provide a wide range of services here, like augmented reality, virtual reality, branding and identity, social media management, as well as website and application development. We here at Motion Time are on a mission to make businesses and people visualize everyday life in a creative way. So our agenda for today is to bust some common myths associated with the animation industry. And me and Mahfouz are going to help you guys see the true form of this entire industry. We will be discussing this entire topic into 3 parts. First, we will cover animation and its applications. Then we will move on to animation and its careers, like what scope you have in animation. And then lastly, we will cover the future of animation as me and Mahfouz see it. So let's start with animation and its applications. So now I'm going to make this session as interactive as possible. So I would love to hear your responses as I ask questions. So the first question I would like to ask all of you is, when I say the term out animation in front of you guys, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Any of you can answer the question. Okay, cartoons, animated movies. Anything else? Okay, that's great. Yes. So now the thing is, like, this is the first thing that came to your mind, right? So the first myth that we are going to bust is going to be that animation is equal to cartoons. This is a very big myth. So before we go ahead into much more detail about this, I would love to share a personal experience of mine, which is related to this. So a few years ago, while I was pursuing my BSc, I think I was in my second year. So I had visited this family friend of mine, and while visiting, after visiting, we were having our dinner, and we were just having normal talks with them and about our future and everything. And suddenly I was asked this most stereotypical question every parent asks another friend of their child, like, beta aap kya kar rahe ho? And I told them I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree in animation. And as soon as I said this, I instantly got another question, and they asked me, "Acha, matlab aap cartoons or comics banaoge?" And that is where I understood that there was so much of misunderstanding about this entire industry, that people always associate it with cartoons, people associate it only with entertainment. Like, this entire industry, you can say, is like a car that has been covered for ages, and that cover has this tag which has this big name called as entertainment industry, and people only read that tag. They don't never uncover the car, and they never see what is underneath it. There is so much more to this industry. Now, coming to what this industry is about, animation is now more about conveying and sending messages, in like for example, there are so many, what you can say, social movements, or movements like Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ movements. All of these movements, they are conveyed through animation, and they are more impactful. If they are conveyed through articles, of course a lot of you might be reading. But if I ask you, so we will be having an exercise over this only, but after reading an article, if I ask you questions regarding the same article, would you be able to answer it in one go? Like, most of you, if you are able to answer, you guys are truly geniuses. But like, if there is a picture, if there is a moving picture in front of you, if it is shown to you in an animated format, wouldn't it be more appealing? So we are going to have this small exercise, now I will be sharing I will be sharing two snippets with you guys. So they are screenshots of two articles. You can choose any of them. You can read them. I'll give like, what I think, barely 2 minutes are needed to read the entire article. So as soon as you guys are done, you can either raise your hands or just say done in the chat. Anything is fine. And like, after that, I will move on to the next slide.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we continue? I hope everybody has gone through at least one article, so that there is some kind of basis to the next videos that we would play. So should we move on? Okay. So basically what I'm going to convey over here is that messages that are conveyed verbally or textually don't make an impact as much as images do. And images will stay a lot longer on your minds than what you read. So when you read textbooks, that time you might hear your parents saying, अरे जोर से पढ़ो, जब पढ़ते हो तो जोर से पढ़ा करो, so that it retains in your mind, so that it stays in your mind. So that is what I'm going to prove, but in the form of animation. So the next videos that I will be playing for you guys, they are some videos that I chose over the topic of Black Lives Matter as well as the LGBTQ India movement. So first we will play the Black Lives Matter video, and I would request all of you to patiently watch it. If you guys have any interference due to network, I'm really very sorry for that.
As a teacher, you walk by the American flag every day as you're headed into class.
And when the door closes, you know you're going to be asked a lot of questions.
Because kids want to know the truth. And sometimes that means you'll be asked questions that you're not even sure you'll know how to answer.
Like, what is the meaning of life?
Or will I really use the Pythagorean theorem after I graduate?
But because I'm not a prophet or a mathematician, all I can do is tell them what I've been taught by people much smarter than me,
in a country that gives us the freedom to ask those questions in the first place. So recently, when a student raised his hand in class,
I expected him to ask one of those difficult questions that I could answer by quoting someone else.
But what I wasn't expecting was a question that made me look inside myself. He stood up at his desk and asked,
Do Black Lives Matter?
It caught me off guard, like seeing our flag waving at half-mast, and I immediately wanted to respond with a simple, yes, of course they matter. But before I could answer, he asked another question that left me silent.
Because if it's true that
all lives matter,
I wonder how come they don't hashtag their values when we send innocent soldiers into war to die for a country that keeps cutting their benefits if they happen to make it back alive.
And I realized he had a point. That the way we saw the world was different, and that he only heard the phrase, all lives matter, in rebuttal to the shade of his skin.
As if there was no room for the color black anywhere in our daily lives of red, white, and blue.
Perhaps his vantage point showed him things about our country that made the Black Lives Matter movement even more important to stand up for.
Because we live in a country whose Declaration of Independence states,
we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, while white men still owned slaves.
And black lives were treated less important than the paper used to sell them. And it was at that moment that I realized
I didn't have an easy answer to give him. I so badly wanted to say that of course Black Lives Matter.
That our rights were written in ink the same shade of his flesh, but I wasn't sure if that meant anything when people like Eric Garner had to repeat, I can't breathe 11 times while laying face down on the sidewalk before he was killed.
And suddenly I began to understand why I was being asked this question in the first place.
Because the answers he was seeing on the news made him think that maybe it wasn't true. And I wondered how long it will take before it becomes more than a social media movement.
Because if your response to Black Lives Matter
is
all lives matter,
I wonder why your voices are silent when lives are being lost. As a former soldier in the US Army, I knew soldiers who took their last breath on the battlefield but never heard your all lives matter chants for them. Not while they were fighting.
And most certainly not when they returned home covered in a pine box and an American flag. So it makes me wonder if it's just something people say to downplay the role our history has played in treating an entire race of people like cattle.
And I know what you might be thinking.
Because I've thought it too. I wasn't a part of that past. I didn't inherit family slaves or money that came from cotton fields. But it doesn't mean I didn't inherit the privilege associated with the color of my skin.
And even though no one is denying that slavery happened, we can't keep pretending like our country isn't still suffering from the symptoms.
Like there aren't still long-lasting effects.
We can't act like soldiers returning home from war can be cured by simply saying, you're home now, it's over,
move on. So now the memories of our history linger in the air like a poison we've somehow lost the ability to smell. And instead, we begin relying too much on what we see.
But the truth is, things aren't always so black and white.
and there are only a few shades of difference between the colors of black and blue. But what do I know? I'm not a historian.
And I only know what I've been taught by a country that covers the history of an entire race in the shortest month of the year.
So when my student asked me,
Do Black Lives Matter?
I wasn't really sure what to say. Because in a world where we let hashtags divide us, I couldn't dismiss his question with a simple yes. So I simply told him the truth.
That in a country that was founded on equality and opportunity it provides to all its people,
Black lives should matter. That our youth shouldn't be taught to feel shameful about their history because their past struggles and scars should be seen as beauty marks and reminders of their resilience.
instead we should be praising them for surviving the ignorance of an American culture and thanking them for starting the process to a very difficult conversation
we've been avoiding for centuries. And I know we can do it.
We just have to stop pretending like everything is okay and be honest with ourselves that we need to change
before it's too late to piece this country back together. Because throughout our history, we've never buckled under the burden of doing what's right. And I don't know if that was the answer he was looking for. But it was the most honest answer I had to give. I didn't have it in me to lie.
When we live in a nation that is so quick to reply with yes and I'm fine, when we're actually still hurting inside.
Because if we were at a place in our country where all lives really did matter,
I know in my heart
that he never would have had to ask the question in the first place.
Okay, so I hope that this entire video was audible to every one of you. So we'll move on to the next video and then we'll come to the point that I'm trying to prove.
A brief history of all things LGBTQIA in India. What is LGBTQIA? Why are there so many letters? What do they mean? Okay, so L stands for lesbian, G is gay, B is bisexual, T is transgender, Q is queer or questioning, I is intersex, and A is asexual or agender. LGBTQIA is an English umbrella term intended to include all subsections of a very diverse community. Is it the best one? There are many other inclusive acronyms, each more so than the next. Let's just take a look at this one here. Wow. Anyway, so LGBTQIA is broad, inclusive, and works best as an umbrella term. Though the irony is, it's been raining on our parade quite a bit over the last few years. India is a South Asian country with a long and complicated history, and lots of different people came here from all over the world and stayed. The last ones here were the British, and they stuck around for over 200 years and left only in 1947. The British Empire criminalized sexual activities against the order of nature, arguably including homosexual sexual activities under Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code in 1861, which was 150 years ago. To put that fact into perspective, here are some other things from 1861 that no longer exist. Sati, the telegraph, steam locomotives, the caste system. No, wait, that's still here. Oppression of women. Okay, that too. Child labor. Okay, never mind. Anyway, Section 377, also still here. Basically, Simon, go back, but we'll keep some of your archaic laws, thanks. Many people believe that homosexuality is a Western import. Side note, it's not. Actually, homophobia is the Western import, as evidenced by the introduction of Section 377 in not just India, but several former British colonies. The prohibition of homosexual acts is provided for in Section 377 of the Penal Codes of India, Malaysia, Singapore, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Maldives, and Jamaica. It is the model for similar laws that remain in force in Bhutan, Brunei, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, Samoa, Malawi, Mauritius, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sudan, Solomon Islands, Sri Lanka, Ghana, the Gambia, Botswana, Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. It was the model for since repeal laws in Australia, Fiji, Hong Kong, and New Zealand. So what's been happening in India with LGBT laws and issues since the British left in 1947? In 1977, Shakuntala Devi, mathematician extraordinaire, published the first study of homosexuality in India called The World of Homosexuals. It called for decriminalization of homosexuality and full and complete acceptance, not tolerance or sympathy. The book, however, went mostly unnoticed at that time. In 1981, the first All India Hijra conference was called in Agra. Around 50,000 members of the community from different parts of the country attended it. In 1994, Hijras were legally granted voting rights as a third sex. The first petition challenging Section 377 was filed in 1994 by AIDS Bhedbhav Virodhi Andolan. This petition was eventually dismissed. In 1999, Kolkata was host to the first Pride March to be ever organized in South Asia. In 2001, NAS Foundation filed another public interest litigation to challenge Section 377 in the Delhi High Court. In 2009, the Delhi High Court decision in NAS Foundation versus Government of NCT of Delhi found Section 377 and other legal prohibitions against private, adult, consensual, and non-commercial same-sex conduct to be in direct violation of fundamental rights provided by the Indian Constitution. Effectively, that meant that Section 377 was decriminalized decriminalized but not legalized. This was a landmark amazing judgment. Well, it didn't last too long. On 11 December 2013, the Supreme Court set aside the 2009 Delhi High Court order decriminalizing consensual homosexual activity. The bench of justices, however, noted that Parliament should debate and decide on the matter. In January 2014, Supreme Court dismissed the review petition filed by central government, NGO NAS Foundation and several others against its previous verdict on Section 377 of the IPC. In explaining the ruling, the bench said, while reading down Section 377, the High Court noted that a minuscule fraction of the country's population constitutes LGBT people. On that note, here are some other things that count as a minuscule fraction of the country's population. Vegetarians who eat egg, people who receive their Aadhaar card in the post, millennials who pay tax, number of people who actually get prosecuted for the crimes they commit. Anyway, the same year, in February 2014, the Indian Psychiatric Society released a statement saying that homosexuality is not a disease and that it did not recognize it as one. In April 2014, a National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India, the Supreme Court of India ruled that transgender people should be treated as the third category of gender. In December 2015, a bill for the decriminalization of Section 377 was introduced in Parliament but was rejected by a majority vote. By the way, at this point, the UK had already passed a legislation to allow same-sex marriage. Let's get this straight, or not, the country that actually gave us Section 377 has now made same-sex marriage legal. Homosexuality itself has been decriminalized in the UK since 1967. Let that sink in for a while. In February 2016, the Supreme Court decided to review criminalization of homosexual activity. In November 2016, Nama Pride was the first pride in India to be made accessible for persons with disability. About 35 people with disability participated in the march and other events. On August 24, 2017, India's Supreme Court has given the country's LGBT community the freedom to safely express their sexual orientation. An individual's sexual orientation is protected under the country's right to privacy law. However, the Supreme Court did not directly overturn any laws criminalizing same-sex relationships. So at this point, the legislation stands in a convoluted paradox. LGBTQIA people are allowed to express their sexual orientation, but homosexual acts would still remain criminalized by the IPC. I guess we're legally supposed to be out, proud and celibate? That's what the laws imply? India's march forward in LGBTQI rights has been slow. And speaking of march, what is Pride? Not to be confused with proud, proudy, or that which comes before a fall. Pride is the positive stance against discrimination and violence towards LGBTQI people to promote their self-affirmation, dignity, equality rights, increase their visibility as a social group, build community, and celebrate diversity. Pride, as opposed to shame and social stigma, is the predominant outlook that most LGBT rights movements carry throughout the world. Does it happen in India? Is it real? Is it fun? The answer is yes, yes, and hell yes. Here's a list of all the places in India that have had or still have Pride marches. Kolkata, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bhubaneswar, Ahmedabad, Pune, Thrissur, Madurai, Bhawanipatna, Hyderabad, Surat, Guwahati, Cochin, Baroda, Thiruvananthapuram, Kozhikode, Nagpur, Bhopal, Lucknow, Bangalore, Chandigarh. So what's happening now? Well, to summarize, same-sex sexual activity legal, court decision pending. Equal age of consent, court decision pending. Anti-discrimination laws in employment, court case may be formed to repeal this law. Anti-discrimination laws in the provision of goods and services, court case may be formed to repeal this law. Anti-discrimination laws in all other areas including indirect discrimination and hate speech, court case may be formed to repeal this law. Same-sex marriages? Nope. Recognition of same-sex couples? Nope. Stepchild adoption by same-sex couples? Nope. Joint adoption by same-sex couples? Nope. Adoption by transgender people? Only in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Gays and lesbians allowed to serve openly in the military? Nope. Right to change legal gender? Only in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Homosexuality declassified as an illness? Since 2014. Access to IVF for lesbians? Nope. Commercial surrogacy for gay male couples? Nope. What happens now? Well, moving forward, if you can't cure your LGBTQI condition using any of these Indian culture-approved methods, yoga, prayer, arranged heteromarriage, dead. What you can do is inform, educate yourself and others, and participate in the march towards equal rights. Join the Pride March, talk and engage, and share this video.
Okay. I know that's too much of information in like a span, but I would like to ask, when you guys are reading the entire article, like that I had put a snippet of, and when I showed you guys the video for the same, what made a better impact on you? What were you more engaged with? Were you more engaged while reading, or were you more engaged while watching this and these two videos that I was showing you guys? You can enter it down in the chat, not an issue. Yes, there is one answer as a video. Okay. And this is the point that I'm trying to prove over here. And please note that both these videos are not made by anybody from Motion Time. They are separate creators themselves. And so the point over here is that when I was showing you these videos, there were words or there were certain lines that were given more impact, and they were shown in a manner which will see to it that that will make an impact and that will stay in your head. So what happens is, now if somebody comes and asks you कि अरे तूने पढ़ा था क्या वो लॉज के बारे में, कहाँ पे डीक्रिमिनलाइजेशन हो गया है, तेरे को मालूम है क्या? If you must have read an article Some of you do have a photographic memory and you might remember it, but there are a lot of people who won't. So what happens when there is animation? It's just that it makes it more interesting to watch. You are more interested to see something moving than something stationary and which has too many letters in it. So this is what animation has come to now. Animation is not just stuck to making films like Moana or Cars or like all the other Disney films or Pixar films that you see out there. It has come into the education sector. It has come into the marketing sector. It has started driving businesses. It has done a lot more than just entertainment now. So now when I'm talking about education, you guys must have had your e-learning sessions. I'm not sure if Vidyalankar provides it. I'm really sorry. But if when I was in 10th standard in my school, that time we used to have this entire e-class which used to go on, where there were interactive animated videos over a biology lesson or a history lesson. What it used to do is it used to make it easier for us to understand the entire concept. So this is what animation is now. So now when it comes to marketing, let's take an example of Duracell. When I say Duracell, what is that comes to your head? What kind, when I say Duracell, is it just the cell that comes into your head, or is it something more than the cell? Exactly. So that is what companies are doing now. Companies make use of animation. So that bunny over there, it's animated. So what happens is they have tried to market their entire cell in such a way that whenever you think of a cell, for example, मेरा क्लॉक का बैटरी खत्म हुआ है, सो आई नीड अ सेल फॉर इट, तो कौन सा सेल लाओ? सो व्हेन यू गो, डू यू से कि अच्छा भैया मेरे को सेल दो? समटाइम्स यू जस्ट से नहीं, मेरे को ड्यूरासेल का सेल चाहिए. व्हाई इज दैट हैपनिंग? It made an impact because there was an animated bunny over there which made it fun to watch. So when it is more fun to watch, what is happening? It is indirectly staying in your head saying, अरे हाँ वो बनी था ना, हाँ वो दूसरे बनी के साथ रेस किया, उसके पीछे उसने सेल लगाया, तो कौन सा सेल था? ड्यूरा सेल. That is how companies are using animation to market their goods. Now when it comes to more operational issues, here is something we have done. So what happens is there are a lot of companies which cannot put in the kind of budget that is needed to market their goods. Like for example, Duracell is doing, या फिर Cadbury is doing, so they aren't able to afford it, or they don't want to do it because for them it is not as professional. So what we did for a client of ours for this case is we made a virtual reality walkthrough for them to showcase how their products work in real life. So we will be showing you a short demo or a short video that we have made for them. And this entire stall was made by our team.
Welcome to Global Window Films virtual stall.
So this is a virtual walkthrough that we have made for Garware, and this is their global stall. So as you can see, you can rotate, zoom in, zoom out, and then you have language options as well as options to go about anywhere and everywhere just through a drop down.
Welcome to Global Window Films virtual stall.
The characters will always give you information about the product wherever you land.
Welcome, experience the late Midnight Black Paint Protection.
There is product information that has been provided, the pre-cut options that are provided. And as you saw, the car changes
Add an
color.
extra level Global's Natural Shield Paint Protection.
So this color changing that happens is actually how the car would look in real life. So in the next car,
Welcome, experience
you just pay attention to
professional quality dyed and metal combination.
So you will see that the color of the windows will change according to the color code that has been assigned.
IR films are high-end performance automotive.
We have adjusted according to the reflectivity also.
QTP ceramic.
So in this film, you will see that it is completely opaque. It isn't transparent or translucent like the other films. We also design, as we said, we had done we also do branding as well as identity, like building the identity of the company. So this is some of the other work that we did for them. You can even change the languages. So now, for example, I want to hear the character speaking in French.
Bienvenue, c'est Global Architectural Window Film. Découvrez la gamme complète de films pour fenêtres architecturales.
That is how it works.
Les films double réfléchissants sont spéciaux. Bienvenue, découvrez la dernière technologie de.
So this is how the entire virtual stall walkthrough that we have made for them worked. So basically what I'm trying to prove over here is that animation, now you guys might be thinking, yahan pe animation kahan hai? That the only animation that you guys could see is the car rotating or the head banner rotating. But no, this is what I'm trying to explain. It is not just restricted to entertainment anymore. Over here, we are trying to make it easier for our client to see to it that their customers are able to see what kind of products they are offering, even though there is an entire pandemic going on. So even though their customers are at home, all that they have to do is log into the website that is there. And if they want to select, for example, films for their car, so they just have to go to the premium automotive window films, select any car, any film color that they want, and they can try it on the car that we have provided. And that is the exact output that you would get if you put the film on the car in real life. So this is what animation is doing nowadays. Animation is not just restricted to entertainment. It is more about driving a business. It is more about building value for a business. It's more about sending out messages to people so that they understand it in a better way and they make like a bigger impact on their minds. Now we will move on to the next subject, that is careers in animation, and Mehfooz will be covering this subject. Over to you, Mehfooz.
Yeah, hi guys. So I think Maitreyi has cleared most of the part over here regarding what actually animation is. So now what I would like to know is, what do you think, what kind of work, what kind of careers do you have in animation? Like being an engineer, you all must be preparing for engineering or medical fields, right? So what do you think is proper term, and what is the career? Like from the standpoint of as a student right now, what do you think is the kind of careers that you will have moving forward in animation? What kind of work will you all do in animation? Any idea? I guess most of us still believe animation is only Chhota Bheem, restricted to Chhota Bheem that is there on TV. Okay, so let me make it more clear. Like animation is not just what we see on TV. We just showed the demo of what we have done for one of our clients, that's Karware. You must have even realized having videos that we post. Some of you all must be using Instagram Reels or filters. Those are all part of animation industry itself. Making filters, making videos, YouTube. You must have seen the TikTok versus YouTube war that was going on. Now, all those kind of videos that are viral, anything that is made on YouTube is made using some software that is made, right? So using those softwares, moving ahead with animation, that is, all of these require animation. Now you must have even noticed why Byju's is growing so much. Byju's is also using animation to teach students everything that they know right now. even moving forward with Snapchat, even moving forward with any kind of software that you see, even Google and every company, every brand requires animation in their industry as a marketing thing. Now, even when Google designs their UI UX, I think you all must be knowing something about UI UX, right? User interface. Now, UI UX is a term that is definitely very useful. Right now, what you see on your screen was designed by some illustrator, some UI UX designer that you're seeing right now. And what made it so easy for you all to understand what button goes where? The coding part is done by a coder, but who's going to visualize the entire thing is done by an animator or a visual designer. That part also comes back under animation itself. So the parts of jobs that we have right now in animation are on your screen right now. Like as we say for motion designer, what actually is a motion designer? A motion designer designs anything, any kind of animation, any kind of still life that is going on into motion. Like basically if I create Tom and Jerry, okay, now, unless I give it some kind of motion, it will be an illustration, like a photo. And when I give it some kind of motion, like even if he's saying hi, that becomes a motion. So the person who's making that cat say hi, Tom say hi, that person is called a motion designer. Now we have a lot of VFX industries. I think you all must have seen most of the Avenger movies. You can say anyone has seen Doctor Strange so far yet? Doctor Strange was the movie that was mostly made in VFX, using VFX. Most of the shots that are there, even the characters that are there, are not actually real. Most of them are created using VFX. Now in VFX industry, most of them just use a green screen and then we move ahead with our industry. Like we don't actually need people. You must have realized in the olden times, people used to harm animals while making movies. So there used to be a disclaimer that used to come on the screen, right? In this shooting, no animals were harmed, and so on. Right now, the case has become like we don't involve animals in the shooting itself. All the animals that are there on screen are animated, are using VFX. We call them CGI. I think you must have heard the terms. Like all these things we see on YouTube, like sometimes we go and see how the movie is actually made. So when you see that, you get to know that most of the things that you have seen not didn't actually exist anywhere. Even when I take an Indian example like Bahubali, you think the throne, the weapons, and everything was actually made in real life. It wasn't. It's all computer generated. So that's how the animation industry is growing. Now, it's not just based on the examples that I've given so far, are all based on entertainment industry, because that's the industry that we mostly have contact with, or the ones that we actually see. But that's not restricted to that itself. Now, coming to the medical sector, when we use, sometimes we even use it for simulations. Like a pilot cannot afford to have a directly fly a aeroplane or a jet, because there are sometimes when he is learning. Now he can't actually afford $1 billion jet to go and crash somewhere because he is learning. We can't have that happening, right? So we have simulators who simulate that kind of experience for you. Now what these simulations are made using softwares. So all these softwares are handled by professionals. So all this is a very vast form of animation itself. The branch is still the same. I think you all must have, it's not that this animation industry, the 3D movies that you see was invented now. You must be remembering the first movie that I think everyone must have seen the movie Toy Story, right? Now, if you all recall, the Toy Story movie was very old. The movie was actually made in 1995. In 1995, we had the technology to use 3D, and that was the first 3D movie that Pixar made at that point of time. So you can see the history that has been going on. And now when we see the movies that are 3D, they're much better than actually short movies. And we actually, Avatar was also a part of it. Now having those kind of animations right now in front of us, you can see the future, the way we are growing, the way the animation industry is growing, and how much there is to grow over here. Now in the education sector, if you see, you have a lot of jobs that come up in education sector. Most of the industries, most of the companies, even let it be Amazon, Byju's, any studying thing that you have right now, they include some kind of animation. so that people find it interesting, students find it interesting. Now coming on to the next topic, what do you think is the requirement to become a good animator? Do you all have any idea what will be the requirement to becoming a good animator? See, right now there's a myth that only when you know good drawing, you should take up animation. That's not the case. Even when you are creative, if you have what it takes to even think, you're a good thinker, you can think what you need in this field. If you can invent something, that's a totally different subject over here. Even if you are good thinkers, like you think like you want something, even if you have good ideas, you're still a part of this industry. All the things that are invented come only when someone is ready to think about it, someone is ready to invent it. And over here, when we have such vast softwares, it's not just about now, right now, the example that we showed you, the virtual stall that we made, that was actually a collaboration effort from animators, motion designers, 3D modeling artists, as well as coders who use C Sharp in that software that we have made. The entire software was coded using C Sharp over there. So we need coders also. They are also a part of the industry itself. As an industry of a whole over here, it's expanding. So now having that expansion over here, we are more comfortable about it, right? We can go into any direction that we want. Now we cannot fix our minds over one thing. We have a very vast field over here. And we don't need drawing. It's an added bonus if you can draw, because what you think when you draw, it is easy for us to explain to the other person before we create something. So that's like an added bonus, but not a necessity. The most basic necessity for a thinker, for a creator, is creative thinking itself. If you can think, you can create it. Now, what do you think is the future of the animation field? How far can animation actually go? Right now, where we are, and what will be the next step, next big thing for animation? Any takers? What do you think will be the next step in the animation field? Interesting. Everyone is blank with animation yet. See, the future of animation right now, it still has a lot of capability to grow. Right now, most of the students are not able to attend colleges or attend schools. So what do you think? How are they learning? Using the classes that are provided from Zoom classes, all these things, right? But unless they have that interactive thing that is going on, having to connect with them is very hard for the teachers as well as the students to understand. That's when most of the inventions will be made. Most of the necessity is the basic for any kind of invention, right? So whenever there is some kind of necessity, there is some kind of requirement, there will be an invention for that as well. Now, when we are moving forward with Snapchat, if you see, they have invented things that you can't actually go to the store. So you can use Snapchat filters to try out your shoes there and there itself in 3D environment. You don't actually have to visit the store. You can try on clothes virtually to see how that cloth actually looks on you. First, we had to scroll up. We had to see, will this fit? Will this not fit? How will it look? Will I like the color on my tone? There are many things that go on in our mind. But right now, with the advancement of technology, all those things will become a part of our day-to-day lives. So that's how everything is going to be moving forward with. Now, you must have seen virtual reality games that are coming up. Not most of us don't have that gear, but right now having augmented reality stuff, like we also make augmented reality. Now, having that kind of stuff is more entertaining as well as engaging. So that's what the future of animation holds for us. Okay. So any kind of questions that you all have for the animation field?
I would like to add something.
Sure.
So basically, while learning animation in general, while I was in the university, I was doing a lot of research over a lot of things, because we used to have these projects that we used to make. So for those reasons, I was like constantly having massive amount of like articles open on it, and I realized something, that this entire industry of animation is not, as Mahfouz said, is not just people who are in the field who are trying to do something like motion design or graphic design. I understood how important the people from computer science field are, or how important doctors are, how important civil engineers are, because not everything can be done by a person who is just studying animation. Not everything can be done by a motion designer. There, for example, the motion designer is responsible for making a simulation for a medical presentation. So he or she or they need guidance from a doctor, a well-educated doctor, to go through it. So where does all this come from? The thing that I realized is that this field doesn't just involve people who are there, who have studied in this field. This industry involves almost every other industry that is out there. So if any of you want to pursue animation, you can always go to any stream, and you can just see what is your skill set. For example, the computer science students over here, they if you know Python, C sharp, HTML, CSS, you can easily get into the web development sector. You can easily get into the UI UX sector. You can come into the augmented reality sector. There is a lot of need for people who are not just in this field too. So this is what, for me, animation is like a combination of everything. That's it. Thank you so much. That's the end of the presentation. We just wanted to make it as short and sweet as possible. So now, if any of you have any sort of questions about the field, about what we presented or what we said, you can please go ahead and ask. And I would like to ask sir to give them permission to unmute their mics and speak to us.
Okay. By the time some questions come, I would like to ask one question. Any part-time course in animation that you can suggest? I mean, if a student is in IT or computer or any other branch, any part-time course that he or she can take just to improve his skills?
There are a lot of part-time courses that are available, but to be honest, I would suggest going for a diploma course. If they are interested, they can go into diploma courses like RN Animation or Mac Studios. They have a lot of diploma courses over there for game design, game development. So over there, a lot of IT is used as well as creativity is used, because there is a lot of coding that goes into that sector. So if somebody knows coding, they can definitely apply over there. If you want to have some certificate courses, you have sites like Udemy, Domestika, Skillshare, where you can, of course, learn a lot. And I think in Udemy, you do have certificate courses where after you finish a course, you also get a certificate for it. So, and that certificate does hold value. So, for example, just an incident in our case, when we are hiring interns, there are a lot of students from the computer science field, or a lot of students from the engineering field who apply for our courses. So what we go for, apply for our internships. So what we look out is if they have any prior experience, or if they have any prior certification that they have they have pursued from, or they have gotten from like sites like Udemy or Domestic or any site in general, or if they have even done a diploma course, it's fine for us. As long as they have a certification, as long as they have software skill, we are fine with them and they are in the internship. So that is what matters. It's just that you need to have that passion, I would say, or that drive to learn something new in this field. Any other question?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. With the same question in continuation, just would like to ask, any opportunities to non-IT or computer science students?
There are. So I would like Mehfooz to take over this question because I am pretty sure that he has much more experience than me in this entire field. So Mehfooz, you may answer.
See, coming back to the point, there's no necessity, like in this field, there's actually no kind of, there's no criteria for you to join this field. Anyone can join this field who's from any sector. So as long as after you complete your 12th, after you've completed your engineering, you can join whenever you feel like it. As long as you have the drive to learn anything new, everything is welcomed in this industry.
I think
Regarding the certification, actually, that's something that is good to have. But as long as you can work on your own, you have a good portfolio. Over here in this industry, it's all about skill. It's not about how much you have learned, how much you study. It's all about how much you can perform, how much you can show. A carpenter will not have a degree to show what he's made, but he can show you it regarding his skill. He can show you the things that he makes. That's what drives people to buy it, right? So if I'm showing up a video, if I'm going up in any industry right now and I'm applying for any kind of thing, so what the recruiters actually need is, what kind of work can you do? What can you make in this field? That's what matters.
as long as your work is pretty appealing to the person you're applying to, they hire you. So we have had interns who didn't even have, we had a previous graphic design intern itself who was from the computer science field, and she was an outstanding person, and she was performing as if she has learned something from the beginning. No, she didn't. It is all coming from within. So, and when you ask if engineers have any scope, I think, does Vidyalanka provide CAD courses?
No, I mean,
Acha, okay. So,
direct CAD courses are not there, but in FE, students learn engineering drawing. So they learn drawing through CAD software.
exactly. So even that is a part of animation.
Okay.
You guys are already incorporating it in your syllabus.
Now, when engineers even make any kind of simulations like AutoCAD, that you all are, architecture students are a very big part of animation industry, because making the environment, it's actually in 3D only, right? So you should have the good measurement skills. Having that kind of forcing, like you can see what is going to be made. You have to make it in your brain first. So if that skill is already there in your brains, then obviously you're a good match.
Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maitreyi, this is Dr. Oak here.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have one question. I just wanted you to just, in a very brief, throw a light on. See, many students feel that career in animation is a glamorous field, but the hardship behind that. Can you just throw light on that? How focused you need to be? Because though it feels like it's a very light, it's entertaining, but what goes beyond that? Can you just speak, or
Yeah,
can you
sure.
just?
So basically, as sir has said, it is true, because I've had people approach me through Instagram or anywhere. The first thing that they say is, Didi, या फिर they just call me by my name and they are like कि मेरे को मार्क्स अच्छा नहीं मिला है तो इसके लिए मैं एनिमेशन में जा रहा हूँ. That is the worst thing one could ever say. If people think that animation is a field where you are all like, you're at leisure doing whatever you want, you can just sit on the computer anytime you want, play and like watch movies and learn. No, sorry. We were made to watch movies to see and to think how animation was made in that film itself. We were made to watch movies without listening to the audio, because all that we had to focus on was the animation, the expressions that we were seeing, the way the character is moving. This isn't a field just for time pass where you will play games and tell your parents मैं game खेल रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैं animation में हूँ, क्योंकि मैं सीख रहा हूँ. You have to play the game. You don't have to play the game also. You have to watch playthroughs without the gamer, like whoever is gaming, he should be silent. It should be on mute. You have to play that. You have to see the person playing so that you see how the characters are moving. So the observation that you need to have in this field is immense. The kind of focus you need to have is immense. You need to have the capacity to sit for hours on end working on one character or working on one storyboard. As in, for example, if you're animating something for ICICI Bank, so that bank is not going to ask you just for character animation, right? It will ask you for coin animation. And what will you do if you don't know the animation? You will have to sit, you will have to research over, and you will have to go through thousands of tutorials just so that you can have that one coin animation right. You need to have the capacity to sit there in one place for hours and hours on end. Even when people work in the VFX industry, I don't know if you might have seen this one picture. I think it was going viral. If I'm not wrong, Mahfouz, it was for the Bahubali film. The studio picture went viral where people were sleeping on the desk. The computers were in front of them. Some were still working, others were sleeping, and then they got up, the others were sleeping, and they were working. So it's a very hectic industry, and you need to be prepared for it. Like if somebody asks for some kind of animation from you, you must be ready to visualize it and tell them on spot that this can be done, and you should be firm on it. You can't just randomly make promises after promises after promises and just be like haha main de dunga, and then the output is not the same. It is so necessary to have a strong hold on the skill that you are learning, that the person in front of you should be satisfied with the output that they get to. So as sir said, this field is very, very competitive. If you think it isn't, that you might get a job anywhere, it's not true, because a lot of positions in this industry have already been occupied by people who are much more old, like they are elder to us. And the thing is that to occupy that space, you need to have that skill at their level. So to have that skill, you need constant practice. And in animation, the only way that you can practice is watching everyday life. That is the plain simple thing, I would say. Just watching a car move by, or watching the trees move, or watching a vendor sell fruits, you can get animation ideas. That is how observant you have to be in this field. And when it comes to career choices, when you make them, you can't just be like कि नहीं मेरे को 3D में जाना है, मैं 3D ही करेगा. Can't happen. You need to have the skill for 2D as well. You can't just stick to that one thing. Of course, master it. Definitely master it. But you can't just stick to it in the beginning. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able, you should be able to just fit in anything that is given to you in the beginning. And as soon as you go like through years and years of practice, is when you realize ki, okay, I want to specialize in this thing. That is the time when you are able to focus and you are able to apply. That is only and only when you're confident about it. You have to be so confident that when the interviewer is asking you questions, this has happened to me. It was very dejecting to see my whatever work that I have done, I've got praise for, just being rejected on spot in front of me, just because I got one correction in that frame which I had made a mistake in, and just because that one character was not having the right walk cycle. So the stress, the kind of focus you need, the kind of perfection you need in this field is like, it's immense. So if any of you feel that it is very easy, it isn't.
And please don't take up the field of game development just because you like to play games. That's not how it works. If you like to watch movies, does not make you a very good film creator. Watching something, playing something is something that you like. That can be a hobby. Or if you're a good streamer, then that's a different question itself. But just because you like games, that does not mean that you become good game developers. For that, you need to study, and this is an evolving industry. You cannot be static over here. You have studied one software, you have studied one thing, and then you move on to a job. That does not happen here. It's completely evolving. The softwares keep getting new updates. Like you see your apps, when you play games, there's a new update that comes in. You have to master it so that you can, again, you get a new level that comes in new. You have to master that level as well. It does not work like a static thing. It's not a 9 to 5 job that you do. Every day you'll have something, and then every day you just repeat the thing. It's not a control C, control V job. You have to do a lot of research. You have to do a lot of development and research. That's the base of this industry. If you need to get into it, you have to be ready to do research on your own. You have to use your brains to think, because you have to be creative in this field. Just because you like something, that does not mean that you are
You
very
can
good
do
at
it.
it. You can do it. Obviously you can do it. Just see, the point over here is that you like something, only then you get into it. Now you like to play games, that also gives it a positive feel, that you like to play games, then you want to create something that you want to play. That's the ambition that you have. That's a good ambition. But just because you like to play PUBG, you want to make PUBG, that's not how it works. So just be frank about it, okay?
Anything else? Any other questions?
No, a quick feedback. Amazing answer, and we really hope that our Vidyalanka students also get internship opportunities from Motion Time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I just would like to hear about any participation of a faculty in a project. Anything if you can talk on.
As faculty, as in, I didn't get your question.
Teachers.
Okay, yeah. See, right now when we collaborate, like the recent project that we have is like an astrologer who wants to teach astrology to students. Okay, so the professor over there is collaborating with the team over here. The entire team works with him, trying to understand what he wants to convey. But over here, the collaboration works from his side mostly, and from our side, it's a support that we provide so that the students can understand. Because the main target audience over here is the student. If the student is not able to understand what the teacher is trying to teach, then it won't work out. So it's the brains of the teacher that decides, okay, that this thing is something that is interesting. This thing will go. Only with experience can a teacher get that kind of thing. Only a teacher can make a video on education. No animator will make that video for you. He can just put it. It's just like a director can make. The director is the one who's directing. So as for us, it's like a teacher who will be directing, and the students, that is us, who are working as his hands, who are making it for him. But the brain is still of the teacher. So the education sector is still bound with teachers. You need them, or else you won't be going anywhere. Any industry.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now I really wish someone would have taught me history with such a amazing animations, because I hated the subject like anything.
It's just text based. So yeah, right now I think many companies have come up with good animations that tell you stories about Shivaji, so that you can. The serials were based on this only because parents like to watch it, students like to watch it. That's the history that people want to know, and when it is in pictorial format, it's very easy to understand for students. That's what the main base for many companies right now, right?
Okay, right. So basically, it means it has very large prospect in education field as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's huge. Currently, it's huge in the education field itself. As Mahfouz was giving examples of Byju's. So Byju's, I think, So Byju's is there. Then Unacademy is also there. So there are a lot of like e-learning platforms that are coming up, which are revolving around animation now. So I have seen not just that. There were a few other companies also that I was researching about. So even they are coming up. So they are hiring animators. So what is happening is, because of this education field, a lot of animators are getting employment, and especially in the pandemic, it's very useful for them, because what is happening is that new studios are coming up, new prospectors are getting, like, they're moving forward with them, and the employment sector is also becoming huge. So what is happening now is that people are not just restricted with this view ki like animation abhi sirf इसमें ही है, कार्टून में ही है. Those education studios are not just making cartoons to explain students things. They are actually incorporating the scientific models or the test tubes and everything too. It's not just some character walking in doing ha ha hoo hoo and just going away. It's much more than that now, which we are like very glad to see.
Yeah, many traditional teachers have started taking this
Yeah.
point now, right now. Like not just the big giants, even small, like even classes that are small have tried to take up this, because there are some traditional teaching techniques that some teachers from the old times have been following, that is passed on to the generations, how they teach, how the students are reacting, because they have that experience. Now, our motive over here is to help those teachers also get a track of this, because just because they don't have the tech to explain what they want to say does not mean that the teacher is bad. The teacher is very good. Just don't get roped up with Byju's over here that, okay, Byju's is giving something new. That's not true. The teachers that you have right now are equivalent. They're actually much better, because even without technology, they're able to teach you. So just
Yeah.
imagine them having the technological advantage and then teaching you. How well that will be.
Yes, sure. And amazing points. As you said, all the things about education as well. I hope there are no more questions and all the questions were answered. Thank you so much for amazing session. I mean, it was really, really good session and had given lot of insights on animation and future prospects as well. Also, we came to know about exactly what prospect lie in education industry as well. Thank you so much, Amit sir, and all authorities of Vidyalankar Institute of Technology for arranging such an insightful session. Thank you so much, Maitreyi ma'am and Mehfooz sir, for giving insightful talk. And as I just now said, we really look forward for longer association, and maybe our students would also get internship opportunities from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you too for arranging such a wonderful session for us. It's like a very big exposure for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maitreyi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rohit.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
सर बंद करू
हो बंद कर, सुनील बंद कर.